Okay, in this section, continuing our discussion of geography, I'm going to move on now and discuss the climate of this region, and that's going to be important to your readings of the text as to understand what's happening in this area. Most people don't realize how far north we're talking about when we talk about the Baltics or even Europe itself, because of the effects of the sea surrounding the European peninsula. It's much warmer than it would normally be, as in areas of northern Russia today, for example, as a moderating factor to the region. So when we talk about the Baltics, it's very close to really the same latitude as Alaska. Anchorage, Alaska, for example, is at 61 degrees north. Helsinki is at 60, which is basically about 70 miles or so south. Tallinn is at 59.22, and Riga is at 56. In comparison to the U.S., for example, Riga is very much on the same latitude as Seattle, which is at 57. So it's quite far north. And because it's far north, it has the same types of, light factors during each season. So first let me talk about the summer. In the summer, this area they refer to as the White Nights, and that's because at the peak of the summer, which happens happens on the solstice, which is usually around June 21st, 22nd, depending on the year or whatever, the solstice, during the day of the solstice, there's 18 hours of sunlight in that area. So generally, if you were to walk around, for example, Tallinn or Riga that evening, you'd basically see the sun doesn't go down on that evening. It kind of goes low on the horizon. But if you walked around at midnight, it seems like twilight. You could easily see everything in the streets, and it basically feels like the sun never goes down. And this is really the height of life for the people of this area, and the most widely celebrated holiday is something called in Estonia Jaanipäev, which means St. John's Day, and it's celebrated in Lithuania and in Latvia and throughout Scandinavia. The solstice is a great time of renewal for the people and partying, and some of these customs go back to medieval times. There's records of the solstice holiday. Generally, some of the things that they do is there's usually a big party. People go out to their summer homes. A lot of people in this area have little summer dacha, like you think of maybe in the Russians do, these little tiny summer cabins where they might grow a few crops in the summer and hang out with their friends. And generally you light a big bonfire that night with all your friends and not go get drunk. And at midnight you are to jump over the fire, and this brings good luck and such for the new year. And there's other things that you go into the woods in the evening looking for this special flowering fern, which is usually rare to find. And this is a fertility ritual. And they light wreaths and put them out in the water. And all these go back to a lot of the pagan culture of this area as well, which we'll discuss a little bit further. And generally, you see that the summer is a time for, again, planting and such. It's a very brief planting season in the area, and people, especially in late summer, go out and go berry hunting, and a little bit later they go mushroom hunting, and this is something that most families enjoy. And there's a lot of different varieties of berries in this area, gooseberries and lingonberries in Sweden, and the strawberries are amazing in this area. I hope we get a chance to go up to the Baltics one day just to try the strawberries and the blueberries. They're not like nothing you've ever had in the U.S. They're just amazing. Also, there's cranberries in this area as well. And summer ends quickly in this region, and it seems as if the seasons in between, both spring and fall, are quite short. And you see a lot of rain during this time period as well. Yani Payev, the summer solstice, I remember someone had saying last time I was there that something in the past 20 years, 15 or so of those summer solstice nights, it was raining. And the general average temperature in the Baltics is quite pleasant in the summertime, usually in the low 70s. Air conditioning is definitely not needed. Just basically open your window, and that's about all you need. And as you progress into fall, like I said, generally that's when you start to see it's the harvest season there as well, but it's very short, and people do a lot of wild mushroom hunting. And before you know it, it's winter, and November is a very, very dark month in this area. Although, December 20th, 21st, whatever, the winter solstice is the shortest day. It's November that is worse in many people's minds because the snows haven't usually arrived yet. And what the snow does is bring a lot of light to this area during these dark days. So in November, when the light has changed very quickly, and by late November, I remember, for example, walking to school 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, it would be pitch black. At 8 a.m., still pitch black. 9 a.m. Once we get to December, we're looking at 10:30 maybe in the morning. You finally start to see somewhat of the sunrise. And if you were out at noon, it just kind of looked very, very low in the horizon at noon on the winter solstice. And the winters seem abysmally long at times, and like I said, they're very dark. And this darkness is really part of the culture as well, and you'll see it in the writing. I'm having you read Two Gloss, and you can see this factor of dark is part of their culture, part of the life. It is something that the people there generally endure, and some people enjoy it, and some people loathe the winter. I myself really liked winter months there because if you go to Tallinn or Riga or Helsinki, it's a cafe culture, and people just spend the winter afternoons and evenings hanging out with friends and drinking cocoa and coffee and these little medieval haunts, really. And the winter nights, in terms of like really dark days, you have about 100 days of really cover, really, in terms of very little sunlight. So it's usually cloudy as well, cloud cover I'm talking about. The average low is about -7 Celsius, and I've seen up to -28 Celsius. What's that about? So it's around, the teens generally in the wintertime in this region. When you get to -28 Celsius, so it is so cold that as your breath emerges from your nose, it crystallizes into little icicles up your eyes and up your nose. I remember having -25 and having like 3 or 4 layers on, plus a jacket, and plus then a very heavy long coat on top, wrapping my face. You have to completely wrap your face with a scarf, and this time just the eyes. Big Russian fur hat are very useful in this region, and a necessary item, really. And that's all you really can expose, because the chance of getting frostbite is immense, and it's a brutal cold, really. And when I think about the Napoleonic soldiers, for example, when they came back from Moscow, they were hitting those temperatures, and many without winter coats, and I mean, it's just brutal. And the thought of being out there without 4 or 5 layers, 10 layers, it's hard to imagine. But generally, it's a bitter cold most days, and people walk in this area though, and you walk briskly, and you'll see the women there amazingly wear high-heeled boots throughout the seasons. They always have high heels on, and they'll be on the ice and scooting around, and you'd be amazed of how fast they can go on those high heels. But the seasons are very important to the life of the people in the Baltics. It affects them emotionally and physically, and the way of life has to be take the weather into account, really, on a daily basis, and much of the year. That's my little section on climate, and then I'll continue on in the next section, next part.